Hello, everybody. This is James Donovan with Personal Finance Discover. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to give you a little crash course on cash advance loan, payday loans. There's all kind of names for them. The bottom line, they're just a cash loan, basically check-to-check loans. Some of them are longer term. Some of them have great rates. Some of them have bad rates. There's good companies out there. There's bad companies out there, and there's scam companies out there. So basically, what we're going to do today is we're just going to go over some common sense tips, tricks, and kind of give you a guide of what to do, how to get the payday loan, the right payday loan, and how to treat them going forward. Now, these things are a bit of a pariah because they don't have a very good reputation, and I'll just jump right into the presentation. What are they? Well, they're emergency cash loans for emergency needs. The problem is that people have been abusing these things and don't use them for what they're for, or they just get carried away from them and they end up taking multiple payday loans. And there's a whole slew of things that can happen that can cause you to get into a lot of troubles with these financial products. They usually have very borrowing expensive costs because they target people with poor credit. All right, if you have access to traditional credit via credit cards or credit union or any other type of loan product, then you're not going to use payday loans typically. But in some cases you have to because it's an emergency situation. Where can you go with you can get this kind of money within 24 hours? Well, online or your local speedy store. Okay, that's why payday loans are explosive. There's thousands of people with challenged credit. More than half of the country has challenged credit, and the reason being is that the crash of 2008. Anybody who bought a house in 2008 or before that during the boom, like me, and I speak from experience, had to go through some kind of a financial shift, either a short sale or bankruptcy, and their credit was pretty much wiped out or destroyed, and a lot of us haven't been able to rebuild that because the economy sucks. So, payday loans become more and more popular. The increase in payday loans has been shockingly growing. They are heavily regulated, but some of these states are not regulating these things as much. But where I live in California, they've taken a very watchful eye on these companies. There's thousands of them out there. A lot of people say that they're predatory lenders. Well, they're not. That's a false statement, and you really have to understand they're just providing you a service. And the information that I give you here today may be a little long-winded, but please try and suffer through it. It's going to help you. Okay, if you use these products frequently, what I say is going to help you. All right, it's going to help you understand why you're in this situation and how you're going to get yourself out of it. Like I said, the growth of these companies is for a reason, because people need the products and the services. We can use them. They're not bad. They're not evil. They're there for a purpose, but we have to use them from a certain way, and a certain outcome has to happen once we've completed our transaction with them. All right? So, how do we use cash advance loans or payday loans? Well, number one, we got to pick the right loan product, all right? And before we do that, we got to understand, usually what ends up happening is, an emergency happens, we need the cash lightning fast. Now there's emotion driving your decision. So, and we'll talk a lot about this, separate yourself from the problem. Try and get your head together and don't think of this issue emotionally, because you're going to make a rash decision. All right, and there's some real expensive crappy products out there. Trust me, I've been promoting payday loan products for 2 years, and I'm going to tell you, some of these products, they're not bad as illegal, but they suck because they cost people an arm and a leg, and you just don't want to get into that situation. So it can be frightening and a little overwhelming because of all these choices out there. You have to understand the reality of your finances. All right, you never want to have a knee-jerk reaction when these things come up. Just sit down, calm down, think about this thing, think about your monthly expenses, think about how you're going to be able to do this. Now, when we talk about the borrowing costs for payday loans, they're based on a borrowing cost per $100 in most cases. The APR, if you look at it, it's a ridiculous, insane amount. Don't focus so much on the APR because you're going to want to look at the borrowing cost overall. The APR is going to be coming more and more to effect if you can't make the loan and you're going to have to make other arrangements. And that's when the cost's really going to have to stack up. Hopefully the information in this presentation I'm about to talk to you about will help you stay away from that kind of stuff, because you don't want to be there. Credit score. Like any other loan product, they're going to look at your credit history. Okay, they can't give you money without looking at your personal credit history, your employment history, and all that fun stuff that comes with a traditional loan. In a lot of cases, it's state law, and it's definitely federal law with FinCEN and all those other weird acronyms when it comes to banking regulations. Okay, so they're going to have that information. Do you own any assets or property? If you have a better credit score and you own assets or property like a car and a house, then you know what, you're a lower risk to them. Okay, so that's going to drive your costs down and get you approved faster. If you're unemployed, the chances of you getting a payday loan that's a reasonable rate is next to nothing. I mean, it's too hard. So this isn't for you. If you're unemployed, you're going to have to rely on other means, liquidate some of your own personal asset, or do something else, because these things will just take you for a ride, and it's really, really tough to get along with these guys. You're just going to waste your time. We talked about the emotion side of it versus the rational side of it. Okay, so once again, you got to separate yourself from the situation, kind of get a cool head and think about this thing. All right, this is the biggest thing that people get in trouble. They don't understand the terms and conditions of repayment. All right, there's not enough time to pay back a payday loan if you're in a major financial situation. This is where getting your head in a cool state of mind and putting it down on paper and saying, I earned this a month, this is my monthly expenses, and this came up. How am I going to pay this back within this certain amount of time and still be able to put food on the table or keep my lights on? That's the kind of exercise you need to do with yourself before you take the loan. It's very, very important, and not a lot of people do that, and they just get into trouble with these things because there's not enough time. Check to check. Well, guess what? They're going to take that money out of your bank account next check unless you make arrangements. So that's where you're going to have to come up with a plan. If you don't come up with a plan, then you're just leading yourself into disaster. Using Payday Peter to pay Paul creditor. Okay, now a lot of times the cycle begins. You have an emergency, you take a payday loan out, and the bill comes due, you can't pay it, so you take another payday loan out. Meanwhile, you're just incurring costs upon costs and bad debt upon bad debt. You never want to do that. I understand sometimes you have no choice, but once again, if you're in that situation, you got to stop the cycle somewhere. You got to sit down and say, look, I even had a client who was doing this almost every other week for 3 months until he got his tax returns. All right, he ended up paying a ridiculous amount of finance charges. It was disgusting. So, he could have avoided that if he just would have sat down and came up with a better plan. It's just, there's got to be another way. You don't want to get yourself into this situation, okay? And that's just one example. I can come up with a lot of them, and it's just nuts. Not borrowing enough money. That's another issue people get into. So, well, I only need $500. Well, they don't really sit down and look at the situation, and they really needed $1,000. They qualify for the $1,000, but they don't, and they can pay the $1,000, but they only took the $500, and then they end up taking out another $500, and the cost just continues to rack up. So you need to make a plan and understand how much you're going to need to get you through the crisis. It's very important. And this varies from state to state as how much they'll be able to lend you, but in most cases it's right around $1,000 to $1,500. There are personal loan companies out there. They're very, very good, but typically $1,000 should be able to see you through unless something really catastrophic happens. Once again, failure to come up with a plan. How are we going to repay it? Understanding the terms, biggest cause of disaster. Secondly, not borrowing enough money and not looking into your own finances well into the future. That false sense of relief happens, and when that happens, it warms over. You got the money, great, the problem's solved. But 2 weeks later, guess what? If we haven't made a plan and we haven't addressed the issue, boom, that false sense of release turns right back into a nightmare. And you don't want that situation. You want to take control. Once again, I'll say it multiple times, calm down, think about this thing rationally, come up with a plan. How am I going to repay this? How much do I need, and how long do I have to float this loan? Make a budget including your repayment for that period of time. Choose the right loan product. Look for the best rates, look for the best terms. There's a lot of lenders that are flexible out there. You just have to find them. I did a review for 100-day loans, and I'm going to do a review for Quicken Loans. They're very good companies. They do exactly what I as a consumer want to do. They go out there and they find me the best options and make people compete and fight for my business. And I would suggest to you, you should do the same thing. Power of choice is all you have left. Make them work for your money. Just don't settle on speedy cash on the street corner. Make them fight for your business. It doesn't matter what your credit rating is. It doesn't matter how much you need. It doesn't matter your situation. You're a human being. You have the right of choice. Fight for what is right for you. Don't let some sucker take your money unless you do your homework first. It's just there's better deals out there. There's better opportunities if you just put the legwork in, and you'll be more successful. Look to the future. Don't use these things frequently. Don't use them to pay don't get into that trap. Come up with a plan, stick with it, and you know what? You want to get to the point where you never have to use these again in your life. I understand. I'm in the same boat as a lot of you. If you're watching this thing, your finances are terrible. You ended up getting wiped out, or you got situations, that you can't access traditional credit. There's 1,000 rhymes and reasons why that is. You want to get to the point to where you don't have to use these products. Okay, you got to come up with a long-term plan and a solution. This is a summary up about everything we just talked about, and you'll hear me say it 1,000 times. Emotion checking, keep those emotions in check. Think about this thing in a rational sense of terms. Realities to the situation, make a plan, make a budget. I know it sounds old school and not very fun to do and kind of stupid and common sense stuff, but you'd be surprised that a lot of people don't do it. They just jump right into it and don't understand the consequences. Know your credit score. If you don't know your credit score, then you have nothing to build upon. So at some point you're going to have to be able to get your credit score and figure out what's going on. All right, it's very, very important. A lot of things can happen that you don't know about. So, it's just a fact of life. Credit score is your life. That's period. You can't get access or even jobs if you don't have a decent credit score. So you got to maintain that thing, and it's a pain in the butt, but you got to do it. You have to do it, or you're going to end up leading yourself in disaster, and things may happen that you don't even know that could cost you dearly, like your job, your house, all kinds of stuff. Shop different lenders and different brokers. Go to an aggregate, put your information in there, and see how much it's going to cost you. Compare. If you don't want to take the risk, or you feel bad about putting your information out there to multiple people, use one of these brokers like 100-Day Loans or Quicken Loans. They're going to make people fight for you on the back end and get that stuff to you, okay, and get you the best terms and rates possible. In most cases, not in all, but in most cases. Stick with the terms of the repayment. Understand when the loan is due. A lot of times the money you borrowed is taken right back out of the account, and you agree to that within 15 days. If you can't make that payment, if you have to carry the loan, or if there's something keeping you from paying that, or if you don't have sufficient funds in your checking account to cover that, you need to contact them immediately. Closed mouth doesn't get fed. You need to work something out with them ASAP. Don't wait. Call them. Make sure you fix it. Don't let your bank account go into insufficient funds. That's not good. If you default on a payday loan, guys, it's the kiss of death to your credit. All right. If you're in those situations where you're using Payday Peter to rob Paul, to just cover ends meet over and over and over again, you're going to have to sit down and means test yourself and say, look, I spend this every month, I make this every month, every time an emergency happens, I have to use these products, and I'm not going anywhere. Then what you need to do is you're going to have to, my advice to you would be, you're going to have to consult a bankruptcy lawyer. It sucks, but it's just the facts of life. You're going to have to hit the reset buttons sometime. If there is no way, if you think about this logically, that you're going to be able to get yourself out of this within the next 12 months, you're going to have to file bankruptcy. If you filed bankruptcy previously and you're having these problems after bankruptcy, then you need to get some help. You need to go to a credit counselor. You need to find some ways to be able to get active control of your financial situation. You either get a second job, or sell some of your asset, or do something to get yourself out of this, because this is the gift of misery when you get in trouble with these things that keeps giving. Okay, and I hate when people, especially customers of mine, clients of mine, tell me these horror stories. It's just absolutely heartbreaking, and I've been through it myself. I had everything, I lost everything, and I'm rebuilding everything. It's just a cycle of life, and I've learned a lot from that process. And since I've been in the internet marketing world and being an affiliate for these products, not just these, but a lot of different products, this is the one necessary evil service, if you will, that is powerful if you know how to use it right. But once you get into trouble, boy, it could seem like the world is crashing down on you. I don't like that for you. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. So I want you to borrow, but I want you to borrow responsibly. I want you to be happy with your product and your service, and I want you to be able to wake up the next day and say, I got a plan, I'm going to make a change in my life, and I'm never going to have to use these payday loan products again within 3 months, because I've got it going on. That's my goal and the goal of this video. I hope this helped. God bless you all. James Donovan, Personal Finance Discover. Please click to subscribe to us below. Give me your feedback. I love to hear from you. And if you need help or any advice any way I can, let me know. I will definitely do my best to help you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever time it is you're watching this video in any part of the world. Bless. Bye.